Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside the Russian Campaign Deluxe 5th Edition. This is a game designed by John Edwards and is published by Consent Press through GMT Games. Well, this has been a long time coming. This has been on the P500 for years, and finally it is here. It is great to see too, because earlier this year, Compass Games came out with the original Jedco version that they redid, and now we've got the Russian Campaign 5th Edition, the Deluxe 5th Edition, which has everything and the kitchen sink included. So you've got the best of both worlds. You have the Classic Edition, and then you have the Everything You Could Ever Want Edition here from GMT. So fans of this game have their choice of pickings this year, and that's a great thing. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this Deluxe 5th Edition is all about. The Russian Campaign Deluxe 5th Edition marks the triumphant return of one of our hobby's true classic wargame designs. Universally acclaimed as one of the most venerable and widely recognized games ever published, covering the Eastern Front during World War II. This new edition of the Russian Campaign includes numerous rules changes by leveraging the expertise and experience of today's leading experts and world-renowned players who have organized numerous tournament events and online support sites. These changes reflect more than 30 years of player experience, as well as outcomes from recent research. The end result is a perfect blend of the game's original core system with key enhancements and clarifications driven by the best gaming minds in the world. Players who have invested literally thousands of hours over the years in both playing and supporting the game. And then we have the game system highlights, which I'm not going to cover. At the bottom we get 5 game scenarios and a full campaign game: the Breaking Storm, Barbarossa, Fall Blau, Citadel, Bagration, and the full campaign game. For game contents, we get 2 full-size maps, including a small map overlay for Lvov Hills, optional rule, 3 counter sheets of 5/8" counters, rulebook, 4 order of battle displays, 3 scenario setup cards, 5 player aid cards, and 2 6-sided dice. It is rated as an 8 on the replay value. Obviously, it's been around for a very long time, pretty much 50 years at this point. Complexity level is 5, and the solitaire suitability is very high at 8. And at the top you can see an example of the map. Below that you have an example of the counters that come in the game. So let's take a look inside and see what we get. Alright, we got our rulebook, player aid cards, and there are a bunch of those. Counter sheets, our 2 maps, the Lvov Hills overlay, and our D6. So let's set up the map and take a closer look at the game. And here's a look at the map that comes with the game. I'm going to show it as best I can because I can't get it to fit all in the same shot, and I've got a couple different things I want to show you here. This is the bottom portion of the map. The top portion of the map is obviously at the top. I'm going to slide this up a little bit so you can see it better. At the very bottom of the map, you have the combat results table and the terrain effects chart, as well as the Black Sea, Sea of Azov movement table down here. And obviously the Black Sea, Baltic Sea at the top, White Sea at the top right. Beautifully done map as you go all the way from Stalingrad and Moscow, Leningrad, all the way into Berlin and Bucharest here. Just a really beautifully done map. I love the colors, love the palette used, and I love the terrain on it. It's just a really, really pretty map. It's going to look fantastic on a table, and it does this classic game justice, in my opinion. And at the top, we have the turn record track, Axis replacement pool, off-map units box, weather, Russian Urals industry, Russian surrendered units, Russian replacement pool, and the Axis surrendered units, and the Russian paratroop reserve. Below that, we have the Baltic Sea, Gulf of Finland movement box, and the air power availability chart for both the Stukas and Sturmoviks. And if for some reason you don't like the paper map, you can always get the mounted map, which I have right here. So you've got the option of using the paper map, which comes with the game, or for an additional cost, I think it's $40, you can get the mounted map. So 2 options for a great game. can't beat it. And it's a beautifully done map, just like the paper map is, and just depends on what you want. If you're fine with putting plexi on top of the paper map, like pretty much all wargamers are, you're good to go with that. If you want the mounted map, you can definitely get this. And for a game like this, a classic game, I think it's great to have the mounted map, which is what Compass did with theirs. They included the mounted map in a box, and I thought that was a great addition. Same here from GMT and Constant Press. They have it as an additional purchase, which you can get if you want. And I think it's definitely something to pick up if you are a fan of the Russian campaign. Next, we'll take a look at the player aids that come with the game. At the top, we have the weather chart. At the bottom, we have the combat results table. And on the back of the CRT, we have the movement allowance chart. Next, we have the order of battles chart. First one is for the Germans, and this is the standard game setup. On the back is the setup chart for the optionals game. Then we have the same for the Russian order of battle. Here we have the standard game. And on the back, we have the optionals game. Then we have the two individual player aid cards for both players. On the front, we have the movement allowance chart and the combat results table. And on the back, we have the terrain effects chart, which lists out all the different types of terrain, giving a graphic example and the name, as well as any additional costs for movement and any defense bonuses that they provide. The top right, we have the Baltic Sea, Gulf of Finland movement, and the Black Sea, Sea of Azov movement. And at the bottom right, we have the air power availability chart. Most of these charts are already on the map, so it's nice to have an option to look at it in your hand rather than having to look at it on the map. But you also have the option to use the ones on the map, which is fantastic. So it's great to have your choice of how you want to use any of these charts and tables. Next, we have the scenario setup charts. First off, we have Fall Blau. At the top gives us all the rules specific to this scenario. Below that, we have the order of battle for both the Axis and the Russians. And at the bottom left, we have the victory conditions. We have the same setup on the next sheet for Citadel, and then the last sheet for Bagration. Next, we'll take a look at the counter sheets that come with the game. Beautifully done 5/8 inch counters. Start off here on the first sheet with the Russian units. On the next sheet, we have the German forces. And on the last sheet, we have the balance of both the Russian and the German forces, as well as the administrative counters for use in the game. And lastly, we'll take a look at the rules. This is a 35-page full-color rulebook. Inside of the front cover, we have the table of contents listing out all the different sections of rules and their associated page numbers. Start off with the introduction. We get to the units and markers, explaining to you all the different units in the game and how to understand the administrative counters and how they're used. Prepare for play, the campaign game. Then we have the sequence of play, which is going to break down all steps in the sequence of play for you. So that way you can follow right along with the rules as you play. And we have movement, stacking, zones of control, movement restrictions. We've got a couple of examples here explaining how Zocs work for those who are not familiar with that. That carries over to the next page. We have another example, this time for railing, because we have rail movement covered here. Another one on the next page, and then a few more explaining rail junctions, things like that. So really good number of illustrated examples, which is key for understanding war games when you have different concepts, especially something like this is going to be like a first-time war game for a lot of people, and they're not super familiar with the idea of rail movement or Zocs. It's great to see it illustrated examples used in the game to reinforce what the text is teaching them. Then we have sea movement, headquarters and leaders, combat, a couple more illustrated examples here, and then that carries over for more on the next page. Battle resolution, terrain effects on combat, air power, automatic victory attacks, supply, Russian paratroops, partisans, reinforcements, a couple more illustrated examples, Axis replacements, Russian replacements, motorization, Axis minor allies, victory conditions. And then we get into optional rules here on page 20. So these are the things you can either use or not. That's why on the front of the setup sheets, we have the standard, or the orders of battle, I should say. We have the standard setup, and then on the back we have the optionals. This is when you're going to use optional rules. Optional rules, we have SS replenishment, battle groups, artillery, historical naval restrictions, fortress cities, strategic movement, Hungarian neutrality and Romanian logistics, Russian recovery, Russian artillery barrage, optional worker units, feeding the beast, replacement accumulation, mobile leaders, Lvov Hills adjustment, and that's what that little sheet is that we saw on the unboxing part. Then we get into the scenarios here. Gives you a breakdown of getting started, setting up, and then the controlled areas, and then ending the scenario. Breaking the storm scenario gives you all the information for setting that up. Fall Blau, which we've already seen the setup sheet for, goes into more information on that there. Then we have the bonus material. Actually, I missed one of them, Citadel, and then Bagration, then bonus material, variant rules. You have revised historical setup, Hitler no retreat, order of battle editions for the Germans and Russians, Flak Corps, OKH Corps, and Vistula Corps, 38th Panzer Corps, 3rd and 4th SS Panzer Corps, 8th, 10th, and 11th Guards Army, 12th SS Corps, Warsaw Uprising. But what if the Russian campaign variants, more variants to the game, Artillery Corps, Sea Transport, Russian Reaction, Japanese Gambit, putting the bulge on the Russians. We have an option flow chart here. Strategic political variants, and then you have the German Chitra variant. OKH prepares for winter fighting. Mild German occupation policies. The Germans encourage Ukrainian separatist movement. Then we have Russian Chitra results. No winter war with Finland. Factory evacuation. Stalin allows for defensive preparedness. No Red Army purges. The Soviets concentrate on trucking industries. And then we have optional Bulgarian forces, duplicate cavalry units. Then we have the developer's notes that start on page 32. Go for a couple of pages. Then we have the credits, some information on the game support, then the rules index on page 35, which carries over to the back of the rulebook. And that is a look at everything you get inside of the Russian Campaign Deluxe 5th Edition. This is a game designed by John Edwards and is published by Constant Press through GMT Games. Well, this has been years in the making. It's been on the P500 for years, and finally it is here, and it is really awesome. If you are a Russian campaign gamer, you're going to love this because you get your base game. You also get the optional and variant rules in the rulebook now, so everything but the kitchen sink is added in. This is a tried and true proven system. It's been around for decades, and it is a really popular one for a reason. It really is a fun game to play. So you definitely can't lose on getting any version of this game. Whether you pick up an older copy like the Avalon Hill, or if you can find a Jedco copy, things like that. Now, Compass Games came out with the Jedco copy earlier this year, and now GMT and Constant Press have come out with the deluxe version of the Russian campaign, and they're just awesome. So you can't miss if you get any copy of this game. But this one here is the one to get if you want to have everything that you could possibly have. This is the copy right here. Again, the paper maps come with the game. The mounted map is a separate purchase. The only problem with that is I wish they had gone with a 3-inch box. Then there's a possibility that you could have fit both the mounted map and the components in the one box. It would have been a tight fit for sure, but it would have been nice to do that. Unfortunately, you have to get a separate storage solution for the mounted map. It's not a problem, but it's just something to keep in mind if you are going to purchase the game. But strongly recommend checking it out. It is a really well done product. Great game. It is a classic, and Consim and GMT did a fantastic job with this. And a big shout out to John Krantz, who had GMT send me a copy of this. And I'm really looking forward to getting this one on the table and having some fun with it. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you'd be curious about this one. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.